We all have that one weird friend that loves dipping his salty ass french fries into a bowl of ice cream, or that one friend that loves pouring milk into their popcorn. It's kind of a little bit mind boggling. It's almost as if these individuals are learning how to be a human being. Like they're almost like they're malfunctioning robots or cyborgs, or maybe they're closer to like alien beings that are trying to understand and fit in with human beings. I don't know, but it's always fascinating to see two things that make absolutely no sense come together in such a magical way, at least in the perspective of those weirdo friends of yours. I know most of you guys are thinking, what does that have to do with today's video, Milk Mustaches? This dude is clearly on some sort of edibles, or he has completely lost it. Well, the intro kind of connects with the video overall, because today we're going to be talking about two really big companies kind of doing business almost behind everybody's back, which is, by the way, we'll get into that a little bit later in the video, but I think it's a little bit comical, the fact that people were just losing their minds over this big announcement. People were just ripping their chest hairs out, rioting, streaking outside naked. It's not that big of a deal, guys. By the way, we knew about this for months. People that pay attention to action figure collecting, McFarlane had already announced and had already revealed a lot of the Page Puncher 4-inch action figures that he was going to be working on, primarily G.I. Joes, but not only the G.I. Joe franchise, also the Transformers franchise, along with, and obviously the Page Punchers 4-inch action figures, which include the 4-inch figure along with a comic book, or, you know, a relevant comic book to whatever the figure is. We already knew this for months now. It was only just recently announced that potentially there could be a larger partnership between McFarlane and Hasbro, meaning we could see McFarlane take on maybe the 1/10 scale for the two franchises that I just talked about. And honestly, it just depends on your personal perspective, your personal taste on whether this is a good idea or not. This could potentially have some really big ramifications, and it just comes down to what it is that you expect from franchises and manufacturers. And by the way, let's not forget there are already a number of different OMs that are taking over, or not necessarily taking over, but that Hasbro is licensing out both G.I. Joe and Transformers to. For example, we have Super 7 giving us the Reaction action figures, which are basically semi-articulated or very limited articulated 4-inch action figures in retro cards, as well as the Super 7 Ultimates action figures, which they've also done Transformers as well as G.I. Joe action figures, which are basically less articulated 7-inch action figures with a bunch of accessories, really good packaging. But for the most part, you're getting similar characters, and I'm not even going to talk about the 1/18th scale. I'm just going to focus in on the 1/10th and 1/12th scale. Let's assume McFarlane is able to get a deal with Hasbro. I mean, we've known for quite some time that Hasbro wants to scale down their action figure manufacturing and license every single franchise that they can out, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. Let's assume that McFarlane, let's assume that Super 7 and Hasbro, and then I believe Mezco as well, let's assume they're all making action figures, and they vary very little in terms of size. Yes, they are different scales, but they're only off by like a few centimeters here or there. Now, if you look at the scenario that could potentially happen, I'll give you guys one example of this. Let's say that every single OM is going to make a Snake Eyes. Every single one of these manufacturers is probably going to make about 5 different versions of Snake Eyes. You're going to get a comic book accurate one that maybe resembles more of his appearance in both of the films, and then maybe eventually you might get a Snake Eyes that is based on maybe the TV series. You get exactly where I'm going with this. It's just going to be this ridiculous barrage of basically the same character, just from different perspectives with different variations. Each one is going to have that flair from whoever it is that's creating the figure, or the one that's distributing it. It's just really frustrating from a collector's perspective, and I think there's going to be an insane amount of fatigue for both of these lines. I don't necessarily think that they're some of the top selling lines out there. I mean, definitely there are some hardcore GI Joe fans and some very hardcore Transformer fans, but a lot of, or the bulk, I should say, of what Hasbro has been putting out, a lot of it is also tied to Disney. You have the Black Series line, you have the Marvel Legends series. So I think it's going to be very difficult for a lot of these collectors to be able to jump in on to every single one of these lines. You're going to have McFarlane making the same character, 2-3 times with different source material. You'll have Mezco doing the same thing, Hasbro doing the same thing, and then Super 7. I just think it's a little bit too much, but that's just my personal opinion. I know there are people out there that maybe want their GI Joes and their Transformers to come from McFarlane. They want his style, they want his fantastic sculpt work and things of that nature. But I just feel like there's already too much of those two franchises out in the market, especially considering that McFarlane does such a phenomenal job with the video game franchises that he picks up. All of the licenses that he's done so far. For example, Doom is just one of many that he's worked on, and potentially one of many that he plans to work on in the foreseeable future. So it just doesn't make any sense to continue making action figures that are already being made by multiple different companies. But as I said, that's just my personal take. I don't feel like we need that many versions, that many iterations of one character over and over again from different companies. But there may be people out there that want different stylings, different flourishes to their figures, and maybe this is exactly what they want. Let me know down below in the comment section. This was kind of a quick video. I didn't want to ramble on too long. I just really quickly wanted to give you guys my perspective. I don't feel like this is worth getting worked up so much about. This is just something where simply Hasbro is going to continue licensing out all of their franchises as much as they possibly can, because guess what? They can make money without really doing much. They're just going to license out their properties, sit back, and these companies for manufacturing figures that are based on whatever Hasbro has created, they have to pay a little fee, a little penalty to them, a royalty, if you will, and they can just sit back and count the Benjamins. But like I said, just a quick little video where I kind of give you guys my personal perspective, my take on this entire situation. Very curious to see what you guys have to say. Let me know down below in the comments section. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of content, you guys can always hit the like button, subscribe. It always helps the channel out quite a bit. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, showing support. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.